Thank you. Can you feel that excitement? Why? Because we have today an extraordinary guest speaker, minister, practitioner, colleague, and friend. And for those of you, there's some of you here who really don't know Reverend Kathy, so I do have some of the official stuff to say. Reverend Kathy became an official minister in July 2000, but she's been a minister all her life. She was raised in the Catholic faith until the deeper callings of spirit directed her elsewhere, and she found courses in Eastern religions in college, and she began to expand and grow. She began taking different meetings that took her to the Chico Church of Religious Science. And while she was there, she saw handouts or pamphlets or something, and it was like this little voice was like, church service Sunday, I don't know. But she came on a Sunday, and that was in 1990. She immediately liked what she heard, felt at home, safe, and accepted. And it took a little while, but then she began to irregularly start to attend Sunday services until God took over and began to move her through all of the training, where she took all of her Signs of Mind classes, through practitioner training, through ministerial studies, and was here all the while juggling a full-time job at Chico State University and with her partner Sue raising their family here. Reverend Kathy has been very active in her support of this center with countless hours of devotion and service, and being on the board of trustees, being our internal IT guru, and here to do fundraisers and almost anything you asked her to do. I once told her at a practitioner meeting that I thought if a person could be an app, you know, the way there are apps on your smart devices, Reverend Kathy would be the app that you would want in your life, because she can do so many of those things. So we're doing that. So I'm very grateful, and we're very grateful when her busy travel schedule allows her to be here to speak with and for us. So without further ado, I would like to welcome back our own Reverend Kathy Fernades.
Thank you. I'm going to grab it. As you know, I always have my props. Good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful to see all your wonderful, loving faces. Let me just take that in for a few moments. Did you know it's March? March 1st. So what happens next weekend? Are you ready for change? Some of you are like, yeah. It's time to spring forward. The last time I was here, I spoke about change. And I spoke, not the last lesson that I did, but back in January 2013, I did a lesson on this book called Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes. Excellent book. Do any of you remember what was going on at the time that I... Name it. Yep. I don't know if any of you, in case you needed a hint, have seen the latest news and review, the student Orion, and I know I have Chico State people in the room, both alumni, retired, and still working there. But the last week's news and reviews talked about the faculty staff protest regarding administration's behaviors. So yes, I was bullied out of Chico State. And today's lesson is titled Answering the Call. And I can tell you, looking back in January 2013, I was resistant to answering the call to leave. And I wasn't happy about, after being there for 24 years, and really my expectations was that I was going to retire there. However, higher intelligence, spirit, God, universal love, whatever you would like to call that higher power, pushed me out of my comfortable nest in order for me to learn that I could fly. In order for me to learn that I could fly, because of course God already knew that. So have you ever been unhappy about some transition? Let me see your hands. Oh, unanimous. Okay, great. Then we're all on target together. I relied very heavily on this book, and again, I've bought it many times and given to many people, and I was almost tempted just to give the same lesson I gave before because the book is so good. But I'm just going to say, read the book. One of the main principles in the book is that transitions are composed of 3 stages: ending, neutral zone, beginning. That's not like a book where there's a beginning, an end, and a beginning. Notice the difference. There is first an ending. Then there is a neutral zone. And then there is a beginning. Now, in truth, with the capital T, nothing that happens to you is ever against you. Although we may want to judge the moment and judge that certain changes are not good, many of you already know that sometimes you look back and you say, what? It was a blessing. Just like having to move out of my comfortable nest at Chico State and now working for the Chancellor's office. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. How many of you remember the story of the Dow farmer? I know Connie has talked to it. Okay, for those that you haven't heard the story, there's a farmer who had a horse and the horse ran away and the neighbors say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And the Dow farmer says, "Well, what makes you think it's terrible?" And then a month later, the horse comes home and brings 2 extra wild horses. And the neighbors come excited saying, "As a farmer, now you have 3 horses. How good, what a good fortune." And the farmer says, "What makes you think it's such a good fortune?" And then the farmer's son is thrown from one of those wild horses while he's riding, and he breaks his leg, and the neighbors get very distressed and say, "Such bad luck." And the Dow farmer says, "What makes you think it's so bad?" And then a war comes, and every able-bodied man is conscripted and sent into jail, and only the farmer's son, because of his broken leg, is able to remain home. And the neighbors congratulate the farmer, and what does the farmer say? What makes you think it's so good? Events happen. Change happens. But we tend to get attached. And when we get attached, we create stories and judgment around what's going on about that change and tend to cause our own suffering. And that's hard to swallow. By not being able to be neutral to the events that are going on in our lives, we tend to, our ego creates this story, this blame, or this reason, why all these things are happening. But if we truly know that we are one with a higher power, with spirit, with God, whatever you call that universal intelligence, that source is always with us, in us, as us, for us. No one, no thing can be against us. We rise above, knowing that we are one, and that's called practicing faith and practicing your spirituality. So repeat with me. I am one with spirit.
I am one with spirit.
There is nothing. There is no thing that can be against me. For spirit is always for me. Whether or not I choose to see it or believe it. And I have you repeat that so that you get that. Very good. One more time. So, yes, I was resistant transitioning in 2013. It was definitely a scary time to have my job come to an end. But now I look back and I realize that I can judge it differently, just like the Dow farmer story. Many of you know, but for those that you don't, my new beginning is working for the CSU Chancellor's Office, the largest educational system in the world. I am very grateful that I get to work from home. Yes, I travel a lot around to the 23 CSU campuses to assist faculty and influence them to redesign their courses to integrate technology so that their students can have greater student success and a contemporary learning experience. So I've described an ending, and I've described a beginning. And I want to spend just a minute talking about the neutral zone. It's really important when you are in the neutral zone. The book describes that when you go from an ending to the neutral zone, that there are 5 aspects of the ending: disengagement, dismantling, disidentification, disenchantment, like, is this really happening? Disorientation, losing a sense of time and space and connection and recognition of where am I really going? And it's not just your thoughts that are changing. It's energy that's changing. Expectations, routines, roles, confidence, control, identity, all of these things change. But the neutral zone allows for the decompression, the openness, the opportunity to release. The mind is a vessel that must be emptied if new wine is to be put in. So for a new beginning, you have to first let go of the old. And as you move into this neutral zone, it's the time for renewal, reorientation, realignment with who you are now, in this moment. This is the time where real transformation takes place. And you get to find new balance before launching into the new beginning. So, are you answering a call? You first have to let go and let the ending be the ending. And as you move into the neutral zone to explore this open new living space, it's the opportunity to practice your faith and do your spiritual practices. So everybody take in a deep breath with me. And notice you have to let go in order to bring more in. Say to your neighbors left and right, all is well. All is well, present moment. All is well, right here and right now. So I'm announcing today, after 14 and a half years as your staff minister and approximately 25 years in this spiritual community, that I am letting go and leaving the center. This is an ending. Many of you know that I've been away from the center for a while, and some of it, yes, is due to my work travel. But some of it is also because I have been exploring the neutral zone. And I can give you ideas about what I'm thinking in creating next my ministry, but it's not defined yet because I'm in what zone? The neutral zone. My ministry will be centered in my passion. I've probably said enough today that even if you don't know me, what is my passion? Teaching and learning. And you might say it's time to practice what I preach at work, literally. I will be using online tools to create a spiritual community that does spiritual practice together that learns together wherever we are, wherever I am, so that we can live an inspired life. I want to explicitly say that the new ministry that I create is not meant to replace the Center for Spiritual Living, this one or the other one. I'm not going to another church. I'm not creating another center here, there, anywhere, except maybe online. What I am creating is not meant to be competitive. Rather, what I am imagining creating is meant to be complementary to what's happening here. It's in addition to. And I'm answering my call that I hear everywhere. The last News and Review had a Gallup survey. And the Gallup survey was about who goes to church the least of the 50 states. What do you think was the top state for weekly Sunday attendance? Utah. Bingo. I don't need to say why, right? And then what states do you think come after that? Hint, hint. The South. Why? Bible Belt. That's right. Utah was at 51%, and then many of the Bible Belt was 47% to 40%, etc. So now let me ask you, who do you think the least?
California. Oregon.
New Englanders. Oh, surprising, huh? Vermont was the lowest at 17%. And then several at 20%, such as New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts. And so, of course, you want to know, well, where's California, right? Last 25%, at 37% is where California is at. So, it's clear that much like myself, while people would like to be physically in the spiritual community, many people travel or prefer, for whatever reason, to sometimes not leave their home on Sunday. So this online community will be actively doing spiritual practices and activities together in order that people may answer to the call to know thyself. Know thyself, to know your godness, to know spirit, to live an inspired life. To know thyself, that phrase, even when I was younger, always captivated me. What does that really mean? It's not like knowing who I am in the physical world. I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm an educator, I'm a sister. I know my favorite colors, I know my favorite foods. I know my skill set. Know thyself goes into a deeper dimension. Knowing thyself is knowing your God self. And getting to know your God self is not, learning to do that is not the same way as getting to know yourself in the physical world. To know thyself goes beyond that physical. And in order to create some examples of that, I'm going to give you a couple examples here. So, you see this piece of paper. Imagine 1 grain of salt in that piece of paper. Many times in our lives, if we were that grain of salt and had that perspective, we're thinking, you know, it's go left, go right, go forward, go backward, because in the physical world, things are happening and we're navigating the world. Tell me what happens to the perspective when the grain of salt is in this box. There's up and down. And it's not just up and down. It's like, wow, we just went into the 3rd dimension, did we not? And of course, in truth, there are no limitations for us. But just by thinking about that grain of salt in the box, you all of a sudden realize, oh, there's another dimension to navigate. That is another dimension. So where is that dimension with us? I'm going to ask you to do an exercise with me. If you'll get comfortable and close your eyes for just a minute. I want you to imagine yourself in nature somewhere where you feel the beautiful surroundings relax you. Maybe the oceans, the mountains, wherever it is you feel in awe and can relax. Move yourself into that space and feel it for a few. Notice how you feel mentally and physically. And I know it's a wonderful place to be, but if you will bring your attention back into the room, tell me what you noticed about putting yourself in that place. Peace. Courage. Say again? Power in that space. Connection. Clarity. Freedom. In the awe of the beauty. So you sat in this room physically. But using your imagination, you went somewhere else. Did your body change? Yes. Did your sort of attitude or feelings about where you're at change? Your imagination is another dimension. And that dimension is very powerful. But we frequently spend our time as the grain of salt here. Maybe reacting to our life's experience. But imagination can move you. You also have a spiritual dimension, your consciousness. And this part of you is the part of you that when you meditate, you watch your thoughts come and go. But there's this thing that is watching your thoughts come and go. That's your consciousness, which is your spiritual dimension. Being conscious of how you think, being conscious of what your mind is doing and thinking is a spiritual dimension. And you have the ability to explore that dimension anytime you want because it's always with you. It is only your recognition that changes, but it is always with you. And whether you're paying attention to it or not, this is the place where we practice know thyself. You have many dimensions that you can explore and master that are beyond your physical plane here on earth. The science of mind philosophy, which we practice here, Ernest Holmes says, what? There is a power for good in that is greater and you can use it. How do you learn to use it? Practice. By practicing being in your spiritual dimension. Okay, here's another example. There's two airline pilots. One pilot has taken ground school, taken all the classes that he needs to learn how to fly an airplane. He's been very studious, gets excellent grades. He's learned how to fly, but he doesn't have any experience yet. Pilot number 1, okay? Pilot number 2 has learned how to fly a plane through a relative of his, but he's never taken any classes, but he's flown across the United States many times with his relative. Now you have a choice. You must fly. Who are you going to fly with? The experienced. Why? Well, the other one knows how to do it. Okay? Yeah. The second pilot has practice. That's important to know because you can come here every Sunday and hear about the philosophy, which is an important foundation to understanding spiritual practice. And I've had students in the past, most of them who have come from other places and said, oh, I know New Thought. But you ask them about their life, and the demonstrations are not present, which means what? Haven't been practicing and don't have the experience. So there is a deep knowing in all of us when the mind, so I would say that there is a knowing and there is a knowing, right? The experience part, okay? They're both very important. There's also a knowing that is the spirit knowing, as in the truth with a capital T. So that's 3 dimensions. You have your mind, you have your heart and your experience, and you have the spiritual knowing. And all those things working together are wisdom. And that wisdom is greater than any one of those parts. In other words, wisdom is greater than just the mind. Wisdom is greater than just the heart. Wisdom is greater than, yeah, I know spirit, but it's all 3 of them together that creates wisdom. And you all have that. But do you tap into it? It's another dimension to be practicing in that world. So are you answering the call to know yourself, know thyself? I'm not asking just about your mind who may rattle off, well, yeah, I am, and here's how I'm doing. I'm not talking about the mind. Do you know? Wisdom, know thyself. Some of you may be saying, why should I care about knowing thyself or answering the call? You can live your life without it. There are many who do. But to answer the call about knowing thyself, you can live an inspired life. Some of you may be asking, well, how do I answer the call? And that's by committing to what? Spiritual practice. So name some spiritual practices. Meditation comes up right away. Service. Singing. Prayer. Casa. Okay, just to let you know that there are many. In other words, you don't have to get tired of just one mechanism. Meditation, visualization, imagination, rampage, as Abraham Hicks would say, a rampage of appreciation, affirmations, treatment or prayer, yoga, a walk in the beauty of the park, mindfulness, singing, chanting, music, or just deep breathing. There is lots of spiritual practice. And I like to think of spiritual practice like soccer practice. You can do practice by kicking the ball around yourself and learning how to dribble, but eventually you'll want to join a team or a community who will give you the opportunity to support you and allow you to practice together. Spiritual practice comes with your own commitment. I said that word. Commitment. Commitment to doing a regular spiritual practice. And like soccer, most of us would like to come to the community to do spiritual practice with one another, which is why you are probably here. So, I have another question for you I want you to ponder. How will you know that you are answering the call to know thyself? How will you recognize it? Okay, I want you to hold that for a second, and I'll ask you it again. How many of you remember Mr. Rogers? You have to be old enough. Experienced enough, excuse me. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of, Mr. Rogers, before, when he began and ended his TV segments, he would change into his sweater and his sneakers. And I'm going to do something similar, so don't be alarmed. How will you know that you are answering the call to know thyself? How will you recognize it? Ponder that. Don't be distracted. Life does that, you know. How will you know? How will you recognize? Because your heart will be inspired. I want to first thank Reverend Duchess for all of her support and love over the years, and for allowing me to come and to share this lesson with all of you today. I also want to thank all of you for your friendship, your connection, your love, your support in allowing me to serve as your staff minister. This is not really a goodbye. Yes, it's an ending, but it's really a transition. This is really just change. Think of the farmer story. I'm still here in Chico. I'm still teaching and learning. I'm still leading spiritual practice. And if you commit to spiritual practice, we will see each other again. You are free to contact me via phone, email. I will have business cards on me and in the foyer that have my phone and email, as well as you can sign up for my email list. Now, you're not going to receive anything right away because where am I? In the neutral zone. But after a while, as I create the new beginning, then I will email the listserv and you'll know more what I'm doing and what kind of spiritual activities are going to be happening online. In the meantime, I want you to know that you are indeed in my heart, which will last long beyond my physical form. And in the true sense of the word, the divine in me recognizes and honors the divine in you. Namaste. Shall we invite the ushers, or is it special music?
It's offertory.
Offertory. Well, the ushers, please.
Just invite me, okay?
Okay, Don.
Okay. It's in your program, the offertory song.